strong his appearance. Still David Lynch made a straight story. We are always talking about him, and he appears only in the end. And the main roles he made, so we recall Paris, Texas, and then this film of yours.
Well, the movie was inspired by Harry Dean and the two men who wrote it. Drago Shumania and Logan Sparks wrote the screenplay, and then asked Harry to do it after they wrote the screenplay. And he said yes, and then they reached out to me to try to fill out the cast and asked me to play a part in it. Drago was an old friend of mine. I've known him for quite a long time, and he knew I'd been trying to find the right thing to direct for a long time. And when a couple months later, when they were still looking for the right director, he asked me if I would consider it. And so my relationship changed from being potentially a 4-day commitment to a 2-year commitment. So I agreed to that. I thought that the script was lovely, and that we started work on it. And gratefully, because our lead was 89 years old, we got it done in less than a year. and also gratefully, you know, he was able to do it. It's such a wonderful performance. We did not know when we finished that 14 months later he'd be dead, 2 weeks before the film opened, which changes the relationship of you as an audience to him, obviously.
And how did you do the cast? Was it only your choice, or what did you have in mind? So this character of David Lynch as well is very peculiar.
Well, everybody, I mean, obviously everyone in the movie was chosen by me at some level, but they were all one phone call away, everybody in the movie. We didn't have a lot of time, so it was like, who do you know that you can call? And that was our list, like, what about these people for this role? What about these people for this role? And so we started doing it that way, and then we were looking for Howards. We had a couple of people that we'd reached out to who had either were too busy or were physically not able to do it because they were ill. And actually Harry said, what about David? And we talked about it, the group of us talked about it, and was like, well, that'd be great. I'd seen him act in his own stuff, I'd seen him act in other things. I'd also seen him with Harry on film in Partly Fiction, this wonderful documentary that was written. That was Sophie's documentary, Hooper's documentary. So I knew that their chemistry was palpable on film. So I was like, yeah, that'd be great. So then the question was, would he read it? And then would he like it? And would he have time in the midst of doing 18 hours of post-production? Post-production on 18 hours of television. Would he find time to do it? And all of those things happened. And he came in for the time we needed. He only worked on the movie for 2 days. It's the second largest part of the movie, and he did it in 2 days. And he just came in and nailed it. I mean, it was a wonderfully weird and delightfully disarming performance.
And how was it working with Harry Dean, the daily shooting?
I mean, Harry, we started working on the script in the weeks coming up to production. Every Sunday we'd go up to his house, and he would mute the game show, and then we'd talk about the script for a while, and then he'd go, well, I guess you guys know your shit, and then he'd go back to his game show. And then there was one week where it was like he turned off the television, and he faced us, and he goes, okay, and then he went in, and that went for 3.5 hours of like, why would I say that? What is this about? I wouldn't say it that way. Those kinds of things. And we got done with that meeting, and we were walking out to the cars, and one of the producers said to me, I'm afraid he's gonna quit. And I was like, no, this is the first day I knew he was doing the movie. Like, I knew that he was in, because he was fighting with it. And that was the process from then on. That made perfect sense to me. So, as an actor. So then it was a question of trying to find the right vocabulary in a quick succession, a very short filming schedule, to kind of help with the context of each scene quickly between the two of us. And that was the process that the first couple of days of filming took. And after that, it was basically a rhythm of, we'd rehearse, he'd go away, we'd set up the shot, then he'd come back and he'd go, okay, where are we in the movie? And then I'd have a description of, okay, this is where we are. And he'd go, okay. And any note I gave him from there had to be about that moment in the movie, because he wouldn't respond to anything that was about any other moment. Which was very different for he and I, because I will respond to notes. Like if a director says to me, I want you to play it this way because 30 pages from now you're going to play this scene in the exact opposite fashion. I'll go, oh, okay. No, not ever. He's like, what about now? And that's kind of the process.
Did he change a lot? The script was written?
No, he didn't change. No, he didn't. The movie has 4 ad-libs in it. That's about it. Everything else was written. Yeah, he didn't change anything. But there were funny moments because it's so inspired by his life. There's a biography of him in the movie. There was a moment where he was talking, I forget which story it was. He goes, I would never say that. And Logan, one of the writers, goes, you said exactly that, word for word last week. And the Liberace one was really funny because he goes, why am I going on about Liberace here? I mean, what's that about? Why am I even worried about Liberace? What's the point here? And I talked to him about why I felt these 2 scenes. Again, I was thinking of structure. I was like, well, it's juxtaposed to the scene in the diner where these 3 people, young people, are sitting sitting in your seat. And I told him why I thought that worked. And then Logan jumped in and said, you know, Harry, you're not a homophobe, so you don't really. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, I mean, you're so tolerant with everybody. You don't have this problem. He goes, I was in the Navy in World War II. Of course I had that problem. But then he just basically went into the whole thing. He goes, but then I thought to think to myself, why am I worried about who he's screwing? Let him get laid if he wants to. So it was literally, he said the exact same thing. When he's going, why am I going on about this? It's like, that's why you're going on about this. It's hysterical.
Well, I need a question from the audience.
You worked with some of the greatest directors and actors, could you tell us about your personal exchanges, the most memorable personal exchanges with some of them? Maybe something that...
I guess I could say there's 3 really great anecdotes. One is in the first film I did, real part was Fargo. I had a conversation with Fran beforehand. We had lunch and we were talking about Norm and Marge's relationship and how they might have met. We were, kind of spinning a backstory for ourselves, like the biography of their relationship. And so the first scene I shot was with Fran and a friend of mine who's an actor, Bruce Bonney, and we were eating Arby's in her office. And he comes in with news about the case. And I turned around and I'm looking at him and during the rehearsal, and then Joel comes over, and Ethan's right behind him because that's how they work. They have a mind meld, the 2 of them. And Joel goes, yeah, you don't really care about her work at all. And I was like, really? Because we were talking for, she was, yeah, we were talking about maybe they met on the 4th. No, he doesn't care. Okay, so I'll play it that way. So then I see the movie, and I realize that it's so vital that Norm doesn't care because she can see the foot in the wood chipper and come home and she's safe. She doesn't have to worry about that. He doesn't care about it. All he cares about is her, the baby, and duck stamps. That's it. That made perfect sense to me. Another one of those moments was I was in Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood, and we were doing those scenes in the barbershop. And B. Vang, this very young actor, Hmong actor, was working. First movie, and it's a huge part. And it was like the 2nd day of performance. And he was really nervous, and there was a moment where the camera was being moved, and I'm standing in the corner with him, and he goes, how am I doing? And I go, and the minute I started to answer, Clint was all the way across the room, and he just like immediately made a feline, like he saw that we were talking. He goes, what are you guys talking about? And I said, well, he's just wondering how he's doing. And he just looked at him and he goes, tell the truth, you'll be fine. Which is really good advice. So there's a couple. Those are really good advice, tell the truth.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I can stop myself thinking about the comic character Lucky Luke. He's a cowboy, he's submissive, he likes to smoke, and his appears on the horizon. There is no horse, jolly jumper.
Yeah.
I can stop thinking about the purple stuff.
Yeah.
Did you think about it? When he went to America, he really liked westerns. Thanks a lot.
I think that the kind of, it's a poetic film. It was intended to be a poetic film. There's things that are definitely resonant. You know, you can't have Harry Dean Stanton walking around in the desert and not bring up Paris, Texas in everybody's minds. And the same thing is true with that, you know, exit. It's a cowboy exit. It's a hero's entrance. It's a cowboy hero's entrance. He's like a gunfighter putting on his belt to go out to be the sheriff of the town. So you know, we talked about the movie as what if John Ford were to make a character piece, you know, and that's why the vistas were so important to the movie, and why the vitality, the kind of weird fragility and vitality of the desert is metaphorical to the character. So yeah, we thought about, we thought about it, yeah.
When watching the film, I saw some shots that really left me intrigued. Like there were lots of low-angle shots that instead of putting him in a prestige position, you just saw Harry Dean Stanton really confused and not really knowing what to do. And for this not to be a weirdly specific question, I'm kind of asking you, how did you plan on the visual aspects for it to coordinate with the story?
The primary thing visually that I wanted to make sure of was, well, you talk about, you know, whether or not he's, the first time we see Lucky, this is actually a great way to describe it in really simple terms. The first time we see Lucky's face, it's in a classic hero shot, right? It's straight up, he's big, he's huge in the frame with this beautiful blue background. And then the very next shot after he smokes, and it says Harry Dean Stanton is, you cut to a vista where he's this big. You know, he's this big on the frame. And that's the relationship. It reminded me when we were working on the visual elements of a moment in reading Moby Dick, where Melville writes this portion in Call Me Ishmael, the first chapter that says, in the book of Providence, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but in the book of fate, this is what my whaling voyage might look like. And on the page, when you read Moby Dick, in huge print it says, War in Spain. And then in tiny, tiny print under it, it says, Whaling Voyage by one Ishmael. And then he writes a 600-page novel. And that's kind of how I felt about the relationship. Lucky's life is this big. But to himself, he's the hero. He's the hero of this little life.
Kind of like glorifying this little existence.
To me, I don't know if it's about glorifying it. I'm the hero of my own little life. I don't think anybody else. Like, I mean, if you are wise enough and humble enough to make your life about somebody else, well done. Most of us don't, and we live lives this way. Most of us. So I don't know if it's about glorifying it or anything. I just think it's an observation that's kind of true. It's true. Let me put it this way. I feel it's true in my own life. So it made sense to me that that's how we see Lucky.
Thank you. Love the film, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm sort of slightly intrigued by the shot at the very end. You sort of break the fourth wall, it felt like, and Harry Dean looks into the lens. I'm sort of intrigued, was that yourself, or was that Harry Dean Stanton? Was that something between the two of you? I wasn't expecting it. It really sort of,
what did it do for you?
I'm still recovering a little bit about it. And
Yeah, that's the way it was for me too.
Yeah, and obviously since his death, it was really strange. But obviously at that moment, you didn't know what the future was going to be. How did that come about? That show?
Well, it was the brainchild of one of the writers, during the later portion of our post-production work, came up with that concept and wrote it into. We'd given a bunch of notes about the script that the writers were working on. I'd given some. One of the other producers is a wonderful writer and also a shepherd of writers, Irish Stephen Bear, made suggestions, but we all, we were signed off on it. What happened at that came back to us in a draft, which became the production draft, and it was exactly right. It landed in the way it landed, and then when we shot it, it landed the way it landed for you, and it works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, just curiosity, who was the person in the phone?
Who do you think it was?
Imaginary or?
You thought it was an imaginary friend?
Or I don't know, a brother or something, or a cat.
Those are really good answers. Yeah, those are really good answers. You're welcome.
Good evening. Congratulations on the movie. I love it. You have a vast wide variety of genres you worked in as an actor. And now with this film, I personally want to see much more from you as a director.
Thank you.
And it's such a specific role for Harry Dean Stanton. Is there any actor that you would like to tackle on a specific genre?
I mean, there's people I love working with. Like there are people I've worked with in the past that I would love to work with again, in either the capacity of a scene partner or the capacity of a director. There are people that have such a that I'm itching to collaborate with. And the great part about being able to collaborate from the director's chair is that you get to have a long conversation with them. So, yeah, there's a few people I'd like to do that with. Some I've worked with before, and some I haven't worked with. But I aspire to. I'm not telling you.
Any further questions?
Hi. So I noticed in the final credits that there were 3 people credited as moral support.
Yes.
What's the story behind it?
I'll tell you that. I will tell you the answer to that. They're dogs. they're the producer's dogs. Yeah. Cosmo being one of them. Yeah, they would come to the set. That's who they were. Yeah. And they were moral support, I guess. I never saw them. Because I was on set, so I never saw the dogs.
How did you cast the turtle?
We had an exhaustive search, put it in all the papers in Arizona. No, we went to the Sonoran Desert Tortoise Refuge. People who have had, tortoises are the only pet that even if you get them, say you get your tortoise at 20 years old, you still have to think, I wonder who's going to take this tortoise when I'm dead. Which really makes me wonder, who's the pet? But anyway, there's a place that saves tortoises. This specific type of tortoise, which is indigenous to that area. And so they brought out 7 tortoises, and I chose the 2 most active tortoises. And I didn't choose the most beautiful one. It was sleeping. They all had the same name. They just named them all the same name. Ernest, I think, was the name. And how you get a tortoise to walk across screen is you take strawberries and you rub strawberry juice on the sides of rocks, and they will generally follow that path. Hoping that at the other end, there'll be a bunch of strawberries.
Any further questions?
It works the same way with actors, though. Just line it with food and they'll eventually find it.
Well, if there are no more questions, I thank you, John, for being here with us. Só queria acrescentar que este filme, tal como os outros filmes da competição, são filmes que têm também prémio do público, portanto façam um favor de dar.
But before you go, I understand there is an audience award for these films, and I just want you to let you know that don't let my feelings that you are the most intelligent and beautiful audience affect your voting. Just let the film speak for itself, even though I find you all incredibly beautiful and talented. Thank you very much.